Was Long Beach on the verge of a revolution?
Absolutely.
But on the east side, you had an ice cream truck
I did.
that when it would come down the street, it might be bumping Parliament. And you grew up in the more the
Before the
60s,
Crips.
before
Yeah,
the Crips, and they had groups like the Uniques, the Majestics, the Esquires.
yeah, yeah. I was part of that.
The day in the life of a Black Panther in Long Beach. What does that look
Well,
like?
we had a
You took us to 1970, where the hippies had a concert
mm,
in Kings Park, and it was sort of a moment where Black boys and at least white girls were holding hands.
they were doing a little bit more than holding hands. When I came into the Nation of Islam, they gave me the name of Stephen X. Salaudeen was always a magnet. He was a very wise man at a very young age.
In Long Beach, there were really some notoriously abusive police officers.
Mm.
What was happening in Long Beach between Black men and Long Beach Police Department?
Talking about Bowline, yeah, he had
Officer
he used to
Bolan.
wear a big diamond ring, and he had a picture of himself painted on a pool hall on Alamedas.
When you were growing up in Long Beach had its urban legends. There was Pigman, Hatchet Man.
Yeah, we had a whole lot of people that we were afraid of.
Can you paint a picture as best you can of Long Beach in this period?
Well, Long Beach is absolutely a black village.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Long Beach Unfiltered with Rockhead and Franklin. Listen, our last episode was really phenomenal, Rock, because you introduced me and a lot of other viewers to a side of Long Beach they didn't know about.
Sir, yes, sir.
Today we have a real special guest. I don't know how you were able
hmm
to do this, but you did.
hmm
Who can we look forward to talking to today?
Brother Fateen and Conrad here is from childhood days, and also I need to say that Fateen grew up with Brother Salaudeen, Freddie Tidmore. They was best friends, so he have so much insight on old Long Beach, and we just bless Long Beach world to have these two OGs speak on Long Beach through their lens.
We are here with a very special guest. I want to welcome Brother Fateen to Long Beach Unfiltered.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate you being here and
I
taking the time.
appreciate being here. I thank God for that.
I want to tell you, when our producers went around Long Beach and talked to people trying to research for the show, your name kept coming up. They said, we have to talk to you. So let's start here.
Answer
You were
that question.
born in Kansas City, is that
I was
right?
born in Kansas City,
1951.
1951.
Now, there's quite a jazz scene in Kansas City. When I first spoke with you, you
Mm.
had at least two saxophones in the living room. Did you come from a jazz home?
My grandmother owned a nightclub called King's Paradise. And, I had two sides to me. One side was my grandparents who were into church and gave me my upbringing in Christianity. And then my grandmother on my other side that gave me my upbringing in life as it was in our communities, which
Mhm.
was a nightclub, with all types of things going on. And so I walked on both sides of the streets.
I got it. So, born in 1951, moved to San Diego,
Yes, I did.
then to Long Beach around 9 years old. So, as you know, what our podcast is endeavoring to do is really paint the picture of Black Long Beach in the 60s, in the 70s. And so we're talking about Southern California. We're talking about a beach city. And we're also talking about this city in the thick of the civil rights movement. Can you paint a picture as best you can of Long Beach in this period?
Well, Long Beach is absolutely a black village, a concrete black village. Everybody in Long Beach knew the parents of the children, and we knew each other by first and last name. We were a village. We were an extension of where we came from. And I feel blessed that God sent my family to Long Beach because Long Beach is a community that I would choose no other because we were involved in everything that ever took place in civil rights. The people in this community were endowed with a great spirit to involve themselves in everything that took place in this country. I can't say that everything that they did was positive, but they did involve themselves, and I'm proud of that. And I reverence Long Beach on that plane.
And when we talk about Black Long Beach, we're talking about what most people in that community would have called then the East Side.
Yes, it actually wasn't the East Side, but we called it the East Side because it was on the other side of the bridge.
Right.
And we called the West Side, and the East Side, and we really didn't separate ourselves from each other, but we did. I don't know how else to explain that, but it was the West Side and the East Side.
Black Long Beach, you've described a booming sort of black business district just in one block space between MLK, which was California Avenue then, and Lewis. If you were to transport us in time, what would those businesses have been? What would that have looked like?
Actually, it was from Atlantic to Alamedas.
Okay.
And in between there, you had the showroom, probably Tina Turner's, I'm sure, has been there, and other entertainers. And as you came down, you had Black Shoe Shine stand,
Black shoes.
you had a birdhouse, you had a barbecue stand, you had a pool hall, you had a gambling shack, you had a hotel that did various things that we probably don't want to talk about. But we didn't ride in cars very much. We walked everywhere that we went, and we embraced each other everywhere we went. We fought a lot, of course. You know,
Human nature.
yeah, I would call us soldiers. We had different parts of Long Beach that did certain things. Like you go down on 20th and Orange, and you had another segment of blacks. You had a pool hall, barbershop, gas station, rundown restaurants, supermarket, but all that was down there. And then you come back up to 17th and Alamedas, and you had the Cozy Club, Big Tate's, and you had the
Big
Shed
Tate.
House, you had Tate's restaurant, you had two liquor stores facing each other, looking at each other for us to spend our money, and so you had a shoe shine stand, you had drug places, we had different segments all through our community. And those three were very important: 20th and Orange, 17th and Alamedas, and Anaheim. And
Okay.
then you had Pacific Coast Highway with Little Dickens right across the street with the projects, Nick's projects, and you had the Highway Center where we all hung out at. We started right there every night, right there in the Highway Center at a liquor store called Whistler's, which became the VIP. The Whistler's liquor store, where the guy whistling, the sign that has been a real big forerunner in our community here lately,
Right.
was a white guy who turned into a black guy. You see, because that guy whistling on the top was not black
So initially, that the guy whistling on top of VIP was white man.
at one point, and then it became something different. We incorporated it into our own society,
Got it.
which became VIP Records, which is a very important factor in our community.
Very important. But before VIP, you're intimately connected familially to the band War.
My
Well,
cousin and his group, that group was right across the street from my house on Hill Street.
uh-huh.
So I was over there every night, with Eric Burton and the rest of them, Brooke Benton or whatever his name was.
So you heard the music before it came out.
I heard it when they was trying to make it,
Wow.
trying to produce it, trying to see if it was right. They started out with some group called Pata Pata, and I asked them were they a Spanish group. I said, Pata Pata doesn't sound very, what do they call themselves? Some old weird name. Anyway, they changed it.
In elementary school, you meet someone who became your best friend, Freddie Tidmore. He's
Amongst others.
amongst others. But there's one friend that you've told me is very special to your heart. He's passed now. Salaudeen.
Salaudeen, yes. I was able to, after all those years of incarceration, we were able to bring his body home and have his janaza, which is a funeral, in Orange County, and it was really nice. Praise be to God. Uh, I hadn't seen him in 47, 48 years.
Now,
You know.
Salaudeen, he inspired, it seems to me to be multiple generations of Long Beach natives. Uh, while being incarcerated, he inspired them to read, to study, to become conscious. What were your fondest memories of him as a child? Because you knew him before he was incarcerated as a child.
I
What
knew him as a we were both young boys, and we shared a lot of inspirations along with other friends. We had a very large group of friends, and we were all very, 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 very close. And Salaudeen was always a magnet. I guess he studied words. I remember one time he had came to us and said that he was transfixed, transmigrated on the heavy, exorbitant sounds of train. And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" He says, "I've crossed over, brother." I said, "Praise be to God, brother." He was a very wise man at a very young age.
really?
He was able to understand things early, and uh, and that is the truth of that story.
Now, when you were growing up in Long Beach had its urban legends. There was Pig Man, Hatchet Man.
Yeah, we had a whole lot of people that we were afraid of that we really didn't know. So we didn't want to go on Billy Goat Hill because we didn't want to run into Pig Man or some other name I can't even remember.
Uh huh.
But we had different looking people in our community, and we
So
gave
these
them
people
names.
existed. They weren't the boogeyman.
No,
There was some truth.
they existed. They existed. Some people are born different. And we as children, without knowledge, gave them different names and called them monsters. you know.
A lot of that was happening to you as children in Black Long Beach. The white communities, the police,
Yeah.
the society were characterizing you as monsters. What impact did that
Well,
have?
I think that, just to be honest with you, that we have never really been prejudiced. And we were just seeking a better way, and I'm not trying to call white people anything, but they were certainly one of the monsters that we feared.
Mm, mm. Now, had you been a youth growing up in the 70s, you probably would have, good chance you would have been a Crip, like Rockhead. That was a movement going on
Well,
there. But you grew up in the more
early,
the
before the
60s,
Crips.
before
Yeah,
the Crips, and they had groups like the Uniques, the Majestics, the Esquires.
yeah, yeah, I was part of that.
Explain that to us. These were kind
Well,
of social. You guys had secretaries and presidents. Y'all were
all
pretty
that. Yeah, yeah,
organized.
we were organized. We had secretaries and treasurers and all that. We started out by naming ourselves after all the LA gangs, like the Dukes and the Gladiators, because we wanted to be as such. We wanted to be like them because they were the icons to us. They were the big guys, the ones that we wanted to be when we growed up. We wanted our hair slicked back. We wanted to process shampoos and things of that nature. So we named, and then as we grew, we became more aware of our situation, and we became socially involved in our community.
Mm.
And we had secretaries. We didn't have no secretaries at the beginning. We just was running around begging our parents to buy us a shirt and put a name on it.
I like that. In episode one, I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, but Rockhead, he talks about the Black Panther Party's presence in Long Beach. And one of the reasons we're so honored to have you is we get to sit down, not only with a Black Panther Party member, but someone who was a member of the Black Panther Party in Long Beach. Can you, as best you can, tell us, walk us the day in the life of a Black Panther in Long Beach? What does that look
Well,
like?
we had a very special leader, and his name was Earl Satcher, but his we called him Katama, which meant
Tama,
sheet of iron.
sheet of iron.
Sheet of iron, and he reminded me. He taught us how to secure ourselves, and he taught us security. He taught us how to protect ourselves. I can only remember that one stance was the Zen Kimadachi, and that's the beginning of protecting yourself. You know, Earl, he was a fluent in the martial arts, and he was a good leader, and he taught us how to be men, and I'm very, very proud of him.
Now, Earl, does he have a connection to the Soledad brothers?
Absolutely.
Now, some of our viewers may not know who the Soledad brothers are, but in 1971, I believe, or 1970, in the Soledad prison, they had an expert marksman guard. They set him up top, and they let out after a skin search. Um, and these prisoners hadn't been let out for months. They were black and white, predominantly black. Sent the blacks over to one side, the whites on to the other, without even a warning shot, began to fire upon the black prisoners, killing three.
Exactly.
3 days later, the guard is found to be in policy and in justifiable homicide. Then the Soledad brothers are accused of having murdered a guard in the Soledad prison in retaliation. Folks don't know that Captain Earl, Black Panther Party in Long Beach, connected to that history. Can you?
Well, really can't speak on what went on in that prison, but I do know Earl was in Soledad along with many other brothers from Long Beach.
Wow.
And when you speak of the Soledad brothers, which I won't speak very much on because I'm not a Soledad brother, but I am part of their heritage, you know.
Yes.
But Soledad brothers were who they were. They were in Soledad, and they went through the injustices of being incarcerated, and that's really all I can tell you about that.
The Black Panther Party in Long Beach, they had food programs. You told our producers they had a center, and it included a teen youth program, food
Exactly.
program.
Yeah, we had some good programs here in Long Beach. Actually, one of the young program leaders named Tony Wilkins, you know, who he was actually killed. He was murdered, in my opinion. He was just a friend of mine, and he was shot by the police and killed in some type of assault. I really don't want to speak on it, but
Well, I did.
we
I
had
did.
some great programs here in the city of Long Beach. But we did lose a prominent member. His name was Tony Wilkins.
So Tony Wilkins was a part of the Long Beach Black Panthers, and he was at Long Beach State as a college student.
Yes,
Was part of the Black Student Union. They made several demands uh, to the campus. Some of them were honored, some of them weren't. But he actually comes out of the Panthers and it's a part of the neighborhood Long Beach Youth Corps. And he was actually taking about 200 Long Beach youth to an Aretha Franklin's concert, shot in the back
murder.
by an off duty officer.
Yes, sir.
Um, were there incidents like this that inspired you to become a member of the Black Panther Party in Long Beach? What was the driving
Well,
force for you?
when that happened, I was already a Black Panther. You know, I was inspired to be a Black Panther because of things going on nationwide. It wasn't a Long Beach situation that caused me to become irritated. I was irritated with the entire country at that point in my life, and I became a Black Panther member because I thought that there was only one way to go, and that was the way to go. As far as my life was concerned, I was willing to give all that I had for that particular.
There were, national events happening throughout the country, but there were some local events, and one of them you told me about, I had no idea, was at the Green Frog restaurant.
Yeah, the Green Frog was some untouched soil for Black people. It was a
They weren't
restaurant on
welcome
the
in.
corner of Atlantic and Pacific Coast Highway, and I don't think a Black person ever stepped foot in there. I mean, I know I wasn't getting ready to go in there. And actually, a mentally challenged man who crossed that parking lot was shot and killed by the owner.
Was he a black man? The
The white
mentally
man,
challenged man?
yes, he was. Yeah, he was kind of challenged. You know, he was a nice guy, but he got killed, and that's all I can say about it.
And this was the context, sort of. I ask you that because it gives us a sense of the racial tension that was happening during this period that you're in the Panthers this was 1970 in Long Beach.
There was a lot of tension in Long Beach as well as Compton, Watts, or any other black community.
When we think about the Nation of Islam, we think about Chicago, New York, not Long Beach. Take us to what it looked like when the nation was in Long Beach. What would
Mm.
we have seen?
You would have seen Long Beach converting itself into a consciousness. You know, we had the Black Panther Party, which had Long Beach terrified. You know, people didn't want to come outside. You know, they were afraid of what could possibly happen to them. You don't know what happened last night. Us running around as Black Panthers and doing all kinds of stuff, burning up stuff, setting stuff on fire. We had the community under siege. You know, we were doing what we thought we should do. But after the Nation of Islam came into play with discipline and men walking around in suits with bow ties on, selling food, fish, bean pies, and dinners. You know, we started to relax the community. You know, and the community became like a door that was shut open back up. You know, to riding around with a freedom instead of a security as to what might happen next, you know, and worried about the police behind them. You know, I think that we took that away from them and we gave them a more relaxed atmosphere, even though they had no choice in their hearts to become a Muslim.
Right.
That's fine. But we did what we did, and I think that we soothed our community. I believe that with my whole heart, that we gave our community a relaxed atmosphere.
And you use the word discipline. And it sounds like discipline was so important there. You talked with our producers about when you became a member of the Nation of Islam, if you were pulled over by a Long Beach Police Department officer, you would not give him your name, you would give him a number.
5910395. He
And what
said,
was
"What
that?
is that?" I said, "That's the number to the temple." Oh, my captain,
That was discipline.
I have nothing to say to you.
East Long Beach is known for its monument to Dr. King. And we know that in Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, towards the end, he talks about his dream of little black boys and little black girls holding hands with
Right.
little white boys and little white girls. You took us to 1970, where the hippies had a concert
Mm.
in Kings Park. And it was sort of a moment where black boys and at least white girls were holding hands.
They were doing a little bit more than holding hands. You know, they were evidently subject to something that they had taken,
A
and
little bit of purple haze. It was the
they
70s.
did more than holding hands, and it was I guess a celebration. You know, I don't know, because I had taken some of whatever it was that they had as well.
I asked that question because I really want people to get a picture of the diversity that was happening in Long Beach. So you have the black community, but in the period that you were growing up, there were hippies. You have the Black Panthers. There's just a lot going on. You described the city as being just as awake in Long Beach as New York. What did you mean when you said that?
Well, at that point, but I will say this about Long Beach: we were segregated as a community, but every school we went to school with white people. You know, we were never segregated at school, so we always had friends that were white.
Hmm.
You know, and those white people had friends that were black. So you know, the community was segregated because it was a black community. But when we went to school Monday morning, the segregation was gone.
Right. And that one day at Kings Park when the hippies threw the concert,
I
segregation
don't know
was
where
out the
that
window.
concert came from. I only know that it was a bunch of white folks at Martin Luther King Park, and they was high off of acid or whatever you want to call it, psychedelic drugs, and I guess that the black community took advantage of that. without putting any more emphasis on that.
Absolutely. It's 1970. The Black Panthers are present in Long Beach. You have free interracial love happening in the park. You have a murder of a black man just for crossing a parking lot in the Green Frog.
Yes, sir.
Police are terrorizing the black community to an extent. Um, then in Anaheim, a gun store is robbed clean. Was Long Beach on the verge of a revolution?
Absolutely. The entire country, before that so-called cleansing of that gun store, that it was a young guy that tried to steal something out of that store, and he was shot by the owner.
Oh,
Yeah, I failed to mention that to you. And and there was a lot of tension on that, from that gun store on Anaheim. And maybe perhaps that had something to do with whatever happened at that store after that. I don't know.
we don't know.
I don't know. All I know is that that there was a burglary at that store. You know.
A lot of times in history, things are taken out of context. So I appreciate that context because when I search the archives of the news articles, all you see is the gun store being robbed. There's a failed to mention that a brother had been shot by the owner.
Right.
Yes, sir.
There's always something in concern to something. Nothing happens by chance. Really, sincerely.
Black Panthers are known for their resistance to police authority, a constitutional resistance. In Long Beach, there were really some notoriously abusive police officers.
Mm.
Uh, one was known for wearing a diamond ring that he may have taken from a black person. Uh, and but a local artist, and I believe he was black, took it upon himself to portray this officer in a mural. Um, what was happening in Long Beach between black men and Long Beach Police Department in the 60s and 70s?
Well, you had some police officers that would portray themselves as an ally, and with a I don't even know how to explain it. We're talking about Bowline, Yeah, he had
Officer
he used to
Boline.
wear a big diamond ring, and he was very abusive in language, not so much physically. He uh, he portrayed himself as a tough guy, and we had to respect that, and he had a picture of himself painted on a pool hall on Alamedas, and for some reason or another, it got taken down, and he had Larry Temple, who painted it at the very beginning, to put it back up there. Just simple as that. There is no real story about that, no storyline. The storyline is that he was taken down, and he made well, I don't know if he made him, but he put it back up.
You know, uh, you aren't the first person I've heard talk about Boline. I've heard one gentleman told me that he was punched in the face by him as a child. Um, the
I know nothing about that.
yeah, it's just it would be shocking if we didn't know better. The last time you saw Salaudeen free
It was at my house on New York.
was your house in New York.
Right.
And he asked you, "What are we gonna do?" You responded to him, "We're gonna die in the revolution." What did you mean by that?
Well, my idea then is that there was no way that we were going to live any other way outside of fighting until we were dead, and that in most cases we would probably die, And I told Salaudeen, he said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "We're going to fight till we dead." He said, "That's right, my brother." And that's the last time I laid my eyes on my brother. After that, I was incarcerated, and while incarcerated, he some things happened in his life, and he ended up moving to New York, and we both became Muslims at that point. It was the end of 1972.
And Salahuddin, he was actually for some time under the tutelage of Minister Farrakhan.
Yeah, which was great news for him because he was already solid as a rock, and to be influenced by a great man like that or a great mind like that would only enhance his greatness.
And then he would be able, years later, to take that into the prison system and inspire so many.
I think that it was a blessing for him to end up in New York with Minister Farrakhan, for him to be able to go into a prison system and save so many lives with his knowledge and his understanding about, struggle or being defensive or any other way when it comes to living. Because Salaudeen was a very brilliant man. He wasn't normal. He was brilliant. And anybody who knows him of any race knows that Salaudeen was brilliant.
I love the way you pay homage to your friend. After the Panthers, you joined the Nation of Islam.
I did.
You're given the spiritual name Fateen, which means, I did
Clever and
some
bright.
research, it means
Yeah.
brilliant, intelligent.
Right.
You are quite intelligent yourself. So
Thank
I
you.
guess like minds attract. After the Panthers, you joined the Nation that day after you were going out because you had heard about this new gang called the
Mm.
Crips, and you thought,
Please don't say it. I had a grudge and an awful sensation in a wrong way when it came to the word Crip at that point in my life because I didn't understand what a Crip was because I was in the Black Panther Party and I heard that they were at war with each other and I didn't understand how a black man could be at war with each other during a period like that.
I
And
see.
God intervened in my life, on my way to try and solve a problem that I could not solve, and I thank God for that because I could have involved myself with hurting another black man or that black man hurting me. And God intervened in that. And I was able to grab a hold to religion other than an assassination of one or the other.
And you joined the Nation that day.
I became a Muslim that night instead of an ignorant black man.
What I find, so you had in the beginning of the interview, you talk about how you were born into two worlds, and you had your Christian upbringing, and then but you were living on the top of the nightclub, so
I
you
did.
were able to see both worlds.
Did I not? Yes, I did.
When you were brought into Islam, the brother that invited you that day to the mosque, he was known to sell weed, but his
With
weed had a
literature.
message inside.
Yeah, that message to the black man: learn how to love yourself. He had all kind of black, slogans in there. I used to tell my partners, man, let's go buy some weed from that guy with the messages. Because he had a little slip in there that said something about, doing better for yourself.
Mm.
And I enjoyed that. As well as the weed itself.
You're born Stephen Leroy Harris.
That's me.
The Nation of Islam gives you a spiritual name of Fateen. We talked about it meaning intelligent, brilliant.
Actually, when I came into the Nation of Islam, they gave me the name of Stephen X.
Stephen X.
Stephen X. Brother Lieutenant Stephen X.
Brother Lieutenant Stephen.
And after that, the student minister or the assistant minister, Brother Shakir, he told me, he said, let me talk to you for a minute, brother. He said, I need to give you a name that fits your character. And I said, what would that be? He said, Brother Fateen. I said, what does it mean? He said, it means clever and bright. I said, do you think that fits? He said, absolutely. And I've worn that name since that day. Actually, when people would call me Brother Stephen, I wouldn't answer. They said, well, I said, my name is Fateen.
Now you have to be clever and smart to more than just survive in Long Beach, but to be successful. Those who know you now know that you have held for many years um, management position at the refinery, but you've actually been a building block to others, helping those who are involved in reentry, coming out of the prison system, who want to get their lives together. You create openings.
Actually, I didn't have a management position, but I managed myself to the point to where I was able to convince, you understand me, people in that position to trust and believe in what I have to say about this individual.
Clever
And
and
I was
bright.
able to bring a large volume of people into the oil refinery, and uh, and I feel real good about that. I mean, not so today because there's new policy, but I at that point in my life, I was able to get a lot of people a job.
That's what I
You know,
find so fascinating about you
right?
and one of your best friends, Brother Salaudeen, because here he is on the inside and he is converting minds to consciousness. And here his best friend is on the outside who he wouldn't
Mm.
see again for 4 decades. And any
Never
brothers
see again.
never see again. Over 4 decades.
Yes.
And here you are, brothers who have seen him who are coming out. You're helping to usher them into careers, being able to take care of their families. You know, what's that mean to you?
That means that a life that I thought had no value became a life with value. And I appreciate that. And I thank God for that, to have caused me to receive that type of growth and that type of development in my life. And I try my best to wake up in the morning against sleep and give God homage to that, to pray and tell him thank you
Thank
for
you.
this life that you have given me.
In Long Beach, people talk about an ice cream truck called Fateen and Talib's Ice Cream Delight.
Hmm.
Now, today in Long Beach, there are a lot of Latino vendors, but on the east side, you had an ice cream truck.
I did.
And I've talked to some folks about this ice cream truck. They said that when it would come down the street, it might be bumping Parliament, and that you had now and later flavors
Oh, yeah.
that folks just don't have today. I still haven't heard of. I've never heard of a caramel now and later. They said you had everything,
Well, I wasn't. The guy who started the ice cream business in the city of Long Beach was Brother Johnny.
Brother Johnny.
He was from Watts, from Los Angeles. He was a beautiful brother. Actually, he was the captain in the Nation of Islam. He was our captain. And after we went through a resurrection with the Nation of Islam into El Islam, Johnny opened up an ice cream truck. And he said, Fateen, you should open up an ice cream truck. You're not working, you're doing what you do. And I went to the post office and bought me a big truck, cut a window in it, painted everything orange with orange carpet, and put my name on it, me and my partner, Fateen's Ice Cream Delight. And we also had another ice cream truck that was ran by a brother named Brother Jamil. Name was Eddie Gann. So we had three black ice cream trucks in the community,
Wow.
and we all had our different areas. I didn't go in his area. He didn't go in Johnny's area. Johnny didn't come in my area. And we covered from the east side to the west side. I had the west side of Long Beach. You know, absolutely.
1980s, Long Beach changes. War on
Mm.
drugs. You, the quote I have from you is, "The city changed. Long Beach never slept."
Never slept.
What was it like in the 1980s,
It was
Long Beach?
absolutely horrible. People subjected themselves to drugs and alcohol at a very high level. They were up all night, scrounging and slipping in the darkness, doing different things that they never would have done just to get some drugs. And that went on all night long, all week long. People staying up 3, 4 days at a time. People getting heart attacks, strokes, losing homes that were left to them by their parents. It was just very disgraceful. I mean, that's why the community right now is depleted itself from black people, because most of the homes in Long Beach have been smoked up by drugs that were left by parents, I mean, at a very high value.
So these same black homes and black families that you would have known by first and last name in the 60s, you get to the 80s, these same homes are being lost. And now we've left with the black
Gone.
community we have now, which is gone.
Yeah, the black community in Long Beach has depleted itself. We have very, very, very few black families in Long Beach now. It's a brand new view. Everything has changed.
But still, I go back to a remnant of hope. Your friendship with Salaudeen, and what I find so remarkable is you described a moment where you're in a holding cell with somebody you don't know, and he's
Mhm.
singing, and he asks you who you are,
He asked me who I was,
and you tell him.
and I told him, and he said, "You got to be kidding me, brother." And he went into his shoe and handed me a note from Salaudeen. And I thought that was very amazing, that God would place me in a holding cell on my way to the county jail, and another man coming down from death row or from the penitentiary. And after an hour of us in this holding tank, he finally looks at me and he says, "What's your name, brother?" "My name is Fateen, young brother." And he said, "You got to be kidding me." He said, "You know Salaudeen?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "I got something for you." And he handed me a note from Salaudeen. I mean, what are the odds? It's
What
like
are the
winning the
odds?
lottery. People do win the lottery. You do know that.
I like you to talk directly to Black Long Beach, whether they still live in Long Beach or not. And I want you to frame it with a quote you gave me that really touched me. You said that our downfall right now is that we have no identity.
I don't want to offend anyone, but we are suffering from an identity right now. We don't really, the young people, they absolutely don't know who they are, because if they did, they wouldn't act as such. And we are suffering from identity crisis on a level with our young people, who are the most important people in our lives, because they are the ones who have to carry this thing on when it comes to people or to a race of people. So we need to incorporate them. I have a yearly event every year called a celebration to the village. And I try to do my best to keep something going to remind us that we are a people who are announced from a village. We brought here from another country, from a village. And
Mm.
our ancestors had ways and methods of showing us who we were. And we reverence those references. But now we don't deal with who we are. We deal with everything else outside of ourselves. We give all of our finances to people outside of ourselves. There's no places like Cambodia town, and our little Tokyo or the Vadio. We don't put our resources in places like that. We got a place in Los Angeles, that we need to deal with, over there in
Lamert
Leimert
Park.
Park. All these rich billionaire black people. Why are you not reverencing Leimert Park? Why is Leimert Park owned by someone else? I mean, what's going on with our people? We need to start incorporating ourselves as a people, not on a racial level, but just as a people. The fact that you were born first doesn't make you better, black man, but it does make you who you are. You are who you are. You are who God put here first. And everybody knows that. But it doesn't make you better, but it does make you who you are. So why not be who you are and start acting like you love who you are, and stop separating yourself from self? That's all I'm going to say about that.
He's had the final word, Brother Fateen. We're so blessed and privileged to have you here with us. I want you guys to know that we're going to keep this discussion going. This is only the second episode of Long Beach Unfiltered with Rockhead and Franklin. Again, Brother Fateen, we thank you for being on
I
the show
want to thank
today.
you for allowing me to be here, and all praises be to God. There's nothing better than that word right there. Let God be the reason. Thank you.
We'll check you guys later.